signing on for today's lesson. So, our quote for the day is: Speak your truth, even when people you thought would have your back choose not to support you. And this, of course, is related to another career life lesson that I had a few years ago, several years ago, a few years ago. Depends on how you define few or several. Anyway, so in one of my past career endeavors, let's just leave it at that. And I was working at a university and directing a university counseling center. And this was like post pandemic. And so, people were getting back to work. Well, it was in the midst of the pandemic and then post pandemic, which I guess everything is post pandemic since it's after the pandemic. But anyway, this was like immediate post pandemic. And so we were transitioning back to campus, and everybody was just trying to adjust and find their groove and figure out like how we're going to make this work. What are we, going to do to make this work? And there was this lady on campus who raised some questions about how my department was operating at that time. And she wrote this long email asking all kinds of questions about like how we were functioning. So, and I was asked to respond to the email. And the email was very, what's the word? I guess the old school word would be like her attempt was to badmouth my department. Maybe you could call it like defaming my department, whatever. And so I was asked to respond and quote unquote address her concerns. So I said, okay, I'll address her concerns. And so I proceeded to reply to her email and address her concerns. And I literally like walked through the email, answered each concern she had, and dismantled each item on her list of concerns. So fast forward, evidently the powers that be did not like the way I responded to her email. And in the midst of that, another lady who was involved in the whole thing went to HR and filed a complaint against me saying that I had verbally attacked her because she was mentioned in the email. Well, again, I was asked to reply and to respond and to address the concerns, and that's what I did. Well, she didn't like it. And so I was, called in per se and pretty much told, like, hey, you need to go back, basically, recant what you said, apologize. And I'm thinking, apologize for telling the truth? Something's wrong with that picture. Apologize, recant what you said, pretty much make this whole situation go away. And I refused. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I spoke what was true, and we'll just see this out to the end. And so they came with a, you have until this date to get this done. And I was like, well, that day is going to come and go because I am not taking back what I said. I was asked to address the concerns. I addressed the concerns, spoke my truth, which was the truth. And just because it wasn't said in a way that the powers that be wanted it to be said, they now wanted me to backtrack. So I, refused to do it. So in the middle of this, I was thinking that, a certain individual would, have my back. He's going to have my back in this. Well, I was wrong. He didn't. He sided with the institution, and proceeded to just say, just do this. We can make this go away. It doesn't have to be an issue. And I'm thinking it's already an issue. And I will not, go back and recant and say this or say that. No, I was asked to respond. I responded. And one of the things that really irritated me about the whole thing, particularly when I said it was very defaming, and the ladies that I had working in my department at that time, and I've worked with some incredible people throughout my career, and these two ladies were no exception. They were amazing and phenomenal workers, very strong work ethic, honest women, women of integrity. And so to have that called on, have them called on the carpet, or us as a department called on the carpet for that, it ticked me off. Like, and I won't even say a little bit, it ticked me off a whole lot. to the point that when I first got ready to respond to the email, I had to give myself some time to calm down because I was just that upset about what this other lady was saying in terms of questioning pretty much like the integrity of our department. And I thought again for sure that this other individual would have my back and would say like like let's work this out, figure it out, whatever. But again, yeah, I was wrong. And so I proceeded, like I said, to just say I'm not taking anything back. What's the saying? I said what I said. I don't think that saying was out yet by then. But anyway, if it was today, I would say I said what I said, or I wrote what I wrote, I typed what I typed. Anyway, whatever. I answered the email. I'm not taking it back. And so they gave me this deadline. Well, the deadline came and went, and I just wasn't going to do anything about it because I refused to take back what I said. And then they said, well, you know, well, I don't know if that, I'm trying to remember. I think maybe they extended the deadline again. And I'm thinking, we'll be extending deadlines till kingdom come because I am not going to change my mind. And so eventually, interestingly enough, the lady who had filed the complaint withdrew the complaint. So I get this notice from HR, oh, the complaint has been withdrawn, the whole bit. And then the HR director says to me, I don't even know why she did that. It didn't make any sense to me. And I'm thinking, it didn't make any sense to you. It made a whole lot of sense when you were sending me all those emails trying to get me to do all this stuff just for speaking truth. And so the issue just basically kind of, fiddled out and died down. And I thought, now I wonder how that would have played out had I gone back and taken back my truth and said and done what they wanted me to say and do. But I'm glad that I didn't. I stood by what I said. That was my truth. And again, it was the truth. And so sometimes you have to, or not even sometimes, all the time, you have to speak your truth, even when you think the people who will have your back choose not to support you. And so I had the full support of my staff. They were like, Dr. J, we're with you. They stood with me through that entire ordeal, and they were a little bit ticked off themselves, as a matter of fact. But they stood with me through that entire ordeal, and we made it through it as a department. And needless to say, once I saw just how the institution operated, I knew that that just was not the place for me to be long term. And it was time for me to move on and do something different. And obviously, that's what I did. And so, whenever you're faced with situations and circumstances and it's about your truth, stand on your truth. Speak your truth, even though people who you think will have your back, even if they choose not to support you, your truth is still the truth, and it's worth being spoken, and it's worth it for you to stand on. As the young folks say today. Look, since I'm since I'm turning 60, I can say the young folks say today. The young folks say today, stand on business. Stand on business. Speak your truth, even though people you think will have your back choose not to support you. Your truth is worth being heard. Okay? So there's my life lesson for today. Hashtag life lessons. Hashtag half tag. Well, it's not a half tag, it's a hashtag. Half tag. I don't even think that that's a real word. Well, it's not a real word. So hashtag words of wisdom. Hashtag listen and learn. So take that with you, stand on it, speak your truth. Don't ever let anyone silence your voice, okay? Take care. Signing off for today.